What is up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Pigskin Recap. Uh, I'd like to welcome my guest, Sports PSP, onto our show. How you doing, man?
Oh, good man. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a crazy week three in the NFL so
Ooh.
far. The Sunday slate of games have finished. They have concluded. So let's get into it, guys. San Francisco blew out the Giants 30-12.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and they only could get field goals, man. They could only get field goals. The Giants, and also Daniel Jones makes the question: is he the guy? And how should I put this? He was 22 for 32, 137 yards and a pick.
Mm-hmm.
I I don't know if he's the guy, man. I don't know. I have no like, and also the defense too. The defense has just been atrocious. Brock Purdy carved them up there in 10 yards, 25-37, 2 touchdowns. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have Christian McCaffrey running all over the place against this team, 85 yards, 18 carries, and a touchdown. Elijah Mitchell, 42 yards.
Yeah.
Like, uh, what was your take on the game?
The San Francisco 49ers were just a superior team. I mean, the Giants, look, they were in this game without Saquon Barkley. And without Saquon Barkley, you're asking an awful lot for Daniel Jones to do. That's on the Giants, though, by giving him the contract because, again, they didn't pick up his fifth-year option. Had they not done that, then you wouldn't have to worry about giving him a huge contract. Daniel Jones, look, he's proven to be an okay quarterback, but he's no difference maker. He's not what consider like a franchise caliber quarterback. Brian Dabble did an excellent job with him last year, but so far the Giants, they're looking right now the worst football team in that division. Defensively, um, it's been pretty bad though. I mean, the past couple of games you gave up. First game you gave up 26 points to the Cowboys offense. Then you gave up 28 points against the Cardinals, even though they came back and won that game. And then the 49ers with no Brandon Ayuk. So, I mean, 49ers, they were just a superior team. So we knew that the 49ers were going to win this game. Yeah, there are questions about the Giants. And again, this is why they didn't pick up Saquon, didn't give Saquon the long-term contract because they know Saquon has durability issues. But when I look at this team, Daniel Jones, he's not the solution, but I think there are much more problems with the Giants. They still don't have enough skilled players. I still don't trust them in the long term. So that's how I look at it.
Oh, I definitely agree with that, man. It's just Daniel Jones, like you said, just okay. He's not the greatest quarterback ever, and also paying Saquon all that money, knowing his injury history. Come on, that
Yeah.
that was you knew going into the season that'd be a recipe for disaster, and has been so far.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so next game on the docket, we have the Colts and the Ravens,
Hmm.
22-19 Colts, and trying to pull up my stats here. It's because I have the NFL app here, so bear with me, guys. So I'm gonna read up some stats. If it would.
Colts have looked pretty good these past couple of games.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, Lamar Jackson, 22 for 31, 202 yards. He
Hmm.
also got some good running yards, 101 yards on 14 attempts, 2 touchdowns rushing.
Hmm.
That's as expected for Lamar. He can
Right.
throw and he can throw and run the ball. Gardner Minshew, 27 for 44, 227 yards and a touchdown. And that one play where one foot went out of the back of the end zone. That's gonna haunt
um,
him. That's gonna haunt him, man.
I just think when you look at it, the Colts are a lot better team than what I previously gave them credit for. Mind you, they're doing this without Anthony Richardson, who they announced as the starter before the season began. Gardner Minshew is a competent backup quarterback. I mean, he can actually come in. He can help you win a few games here and there. If you look at it, the Colts, what I love about it, we thought prior to the season, who'd you have prior to the season to win the AFC South? Jacksonville, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because of what they did last year. Trevor Lawrence was only going to get better. Doug Peterson, everything else. Well, what I love about it is that the AFC South is not that bad of a division as what I previously thought. I mean, not just the Colts, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, the Houston Texans. They just went on the road against Jacksonville and beat Jacksonville, and CJ outperformed Trevor. So what I love about it is giving a lot more competition in the AFC South. The Colts are actually looking a lot better on paper, and they also did this without Jonathan Taylor. And Moss had their running back had 30 carries for about 120 something yards. So when you can play that well, throwing and running the football, even in the circumstances of rain, because it was raining all throughout the weekend, you can win with that. And your defense held Lamar to just 19 points. So to
Yeah.
win like that, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of his Moss thing, he had 30 carries for 122 yards to be
Yeah.
exact. So he had a great game, and like you said, that offense is really really good. Imagine if they had Anthony Richardson out there, they would have been even better, to be honest.
Even Taylor,
Um,
too.
yeah, even Jonathan Taylor for sure, they would be even better there. But yeah, we'll get to the Jacksonville game, guys, because I got more thoughts on the two games with that. Let's go to this game. Browns Titans. 27-3 Browns.
Deshaun Watson had to show everybody why you gave him the contract. Given
Yep.
all the off the field issues that he had to validate why, okay, despite all these off the field issues, I gave up multiple first round picks, draft compensation to acquire him in a trade. And on top of that, at the time, given $230 million guaranteed. So
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson had to bounce back because if you look at the game against the Steelers Monday night, he looked just as rusty as he was last season, and he had to bounce back from it. Now, the Browns, I mean, they still were able to win the game. What they did great was neutralize the run, take Derrick
Yeah.
Henry out of the equation. The defense was great. Myles Garrett had 3.5 sacks, definitely making a strong case for Defensive Player of the Year. Myles Garrett, I think he's very underrated as a defensive player, doesn't get enough credit or recognition
Yeah.
that he deserves, primarily because of the team, that organization that he plays for. But to play like that, I mean, it's going to help you win a lot of games. This is why Cleveland decided to get Deshaun Watson, because when he's available, this is what he's capable of doing. So
Yeah.
very impressive win for Cleveland because they needed to bounce back after that tough loss against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they needed to bounce back for sure because after that game, you heard a lot of chatter. Heard a lot of
Yeah,
chatter. Is Deshaun Watson the guy? Is he just another quarterback that the Browns, you know, are not good with? That they had that long laundry list of quarterbacks since 2002
yeah.
where they just couldn't get it right. And honestly, right now, as of right now, through 3 weeks, they've gotten it right. But
So
we
far, yeah.
said that about Baker Mayfield. They got it right about Baker Mayfield. What happened?
And
They
look how
lost.
that turned out.
Yeah, exactly.
But looking back, Baker, if you redo that draft, Baker should have not been the first overall pick. I
No.
mean, it either
That I
it,
can agree with. 'Cause
yeah.
I mean, look, to add to that as well. Yes, I know you can't see me, but to ask what is for me was the attitude problem with me. That was the one thing I always was the one thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way with Baker. He was too arrogant for my
Yeah,
liking.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
that was my problem with him too. Like towards the end there, like he was getting very, very arrogant, and then his
well,
play showed that he was too arrogant over
he got
time.
too
That
yeah, he got too full of himself, particularly the Kansas game. Remember, which he tried to shake some of the players' hands from Kansas during coin toss, and the Kansas players refused. And then he's grabbing his, you know what, during the sideline. Baker just has that chip on his shoulder. But in fairness to Baker, these past couple of games, he's actually been playing very good so far. So I want to give Baker credit on that. But Cleveland, look, Deshaun Watson, it all came down to Deshaun Watson. He had to show everyone why the Cleveland Browns had to give up all those draft picks and give him that ton of money. And if that wasn't the case, then Cleveland made a huge mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
And to piggyback all this, well, I want to bring this up too, because the biggest storyline with Baker's like, can he still be a competent starter? Because that's one of the right now is the biggest storyline surrounding Baker. Like, can he still hold a starting job? Because right now, people, I mean, after what we saw in Carolina, boy, that was messy. That was messy. There's no other words to say it. But
yeah, it was that was like really messy, that breakup. But that's how we got here to Deshaun Watson. But yeah, he had basically the numbers that he had with the Texans. What he used to do. 27 for 33, 29 yards and 2 touchdowns. So we had a really, really good game. Really good game. And also, I'm going to piggyback what you said about Myles Garrett. He is criminally underrated. Not just underrated, he's criminally underrated.
And also, and he kind of flat out embarrassed. First of all, he not only he sacked the quarterback, you one of your offensive line gets sacked. That's embarrassing.
You know what's even more embarrassing? You know what's even more embarrassing about that, Rob? You know what's even more embarrassing? It's the fact that he can show you that he's going to try to cross you up with a basketball crossover and still cross you up. Like, dude, you know it's coming. You still get fooled.
It really is. Like, people don't understand how strong Myles Garrett really is. He may not look like it. Like, I don't know. It's kind of weird, because you see offensively they're big and girthy, but Myles Garrett, that's a lean, mean machine, tackling machine. That is.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, I mean, he is a physical specimen.
Yeah, but he had a tremendous game. Ryan Tannehill didn't have the greatest of games, but that was because of that Cleveland defense. That Cleveland defense really got to him, and it was just he was 13 for 25, 104 yards. But the real story was Derrick Henry, how they stopped him. 11 attempts, 20 yards, and he averaged 1 yard per carry.
That's the formula in order to beat Tennessee. When you take away the Derrick Henry, and when you just basically dare Ryan Tannehill or who knows Malik Willis to beat you, you have a greater chance of winning. And fortunately for the Browns, they capitalized on that.
Because I mean, that was the one thing that I've always. I mean, people really don't really. The one thing that people really never. I think was criminal around the Browns, even though we do laugh at them. Their defense has always been solidly underrated. No matter how you look at it, it goes from Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, and there's probably another guy I'm probably missing that's drawing off the top of my head at the moment. But you get what I'm saying. They have like some stud. They got stud pieces on the defensive end of the football.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're loaded with talent. All they just needed was a quarterback, whether a top 10 or a top 7 quarterback. And if Deshaun Watson, if he can play like this, then Cleveland, they can definitely make some noise within the AFC North and compete within that division.
Exactly.
Because I mean, we look at this AFC North. You saw Bengals not playing up to what we expected them to be. Baltimore's been kind of so far a little bit disappointing at times, but that's all I say on that. Because right now we don't know. Steelers.
I'm still not that high on the Steelers because remember week 1. Yeah.
I mean, unless you can fire Matt Canada, that's besides the point.
Oh my gosh! I don't even want to get started about Matt Canada. He is not creative with his play calls at all.
I told her this once before too. Before the show started.
Let's just get to that game. Hold on. Let's just get to that game since we're talking about.
Right now, that's the most talked about game throughout social media. Well,
if that's the case, let's get to that game right now. I know it was the Sunday night one, but let's get to that game right now since we segued into that with Matt Canada.
That's
It wasn't the prettiest game. I turned it off at like halftime. It wasn't even that pretty.
Yeah, it was pretty much a snooze fest. It's basically because it's funny because I've had a lot of Steelers fans coming in like texting me, it's like, kind of venting about how bad Matt Canada's like first of all, I know, like, you I don't have to hear
Yeah,
it. It's like, look,
And that's the thing. And that's the thing, though. He's not creative. Even that win even looked boring.
because when you really look at this team on paper, before we get into the stats, like, this team has the talent to be a good team. Don't get me wrong. Kenny Pickett, I really don't know. I like Najee Harris. I like George Pickens, Deontay Johnson. It's for me, it's just like, can they really? Because obviously with Matt Canada, the OC, they're not. It's like,
and their
See,
O-line. And their O-line.
Yeah. And here's the question marks for me for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. I think it's Matt Canada and it's Kenny Pickett. Because, Kenny Pickett, second-year guy, he's just starting out as that starting quarterback full-time. Because last season they were starting what's his face? Trubisky for a while. That flopped harder than whatever, but
and
I couldn't find an analogy for the flopping thing, so I just said
it's the best way you can put it.
But,
I mean, because think about it. Because after Big Ben retired, they needed to find a successor. And yes, in terms of the Steeler Nation, yeah, that's some big shoes to fill because Big Ben pretty much represented the city of Pittsburgh for
I think
for a long time.
I think they just drafted Kenny Pickett because where did he go to school? Pittsburgh. So
you know what? That's
what they were trying to pull a Joe Burrow situation, and he went to school in this state, so let's just draft him here. Like, no, like that's the wrong move to make. Like, I get, like, with Cincinnati, that was the right move for them because he was highly touted after because he had just beaten Clemson in the national championship game.
Yeah, don't remind me. Holy crap!
I think what the bottom line is, the Steelers, they're going to keep themselves in games with the defense and Mike Tomlin. Still to this day, he's never had a losing record under his watch. So, but we all know in this league, especially in today, you're only going to go as far as your quarterback goes. And Kenny Pickett still hasn't proven he's not the answer. He's talented. He can make up with some plays with his running, his athletic ability. But outside of that, what does he give you that makes you say, okay, this is the quarterback that we can build our franchise on?
Yeah, and that's a very good point too.
Because that's why he's such a question mark for me. That is exactly why he's such a question mark for me.
Because, I mean, you really look at it from both sides. I mean, look, they got a nice offensive line because let's be real, that Broderick Jones. I'll say this too, a touch on the Broderick Jones. I thought he was a very nice, solid draft pick because let's be real, that offensive line was not the greatest, but the fact that it was a left tackle, I think they were weakened, but they got the guy that they needed. And let's be real, Joey Porter, that kid looked like he's going to be something special in that secondary. I mean, well, because I've always respected his dad because his dad was fucking nasty.
Mm-hmm. But let's talk about the Raiders a little bit. I mean, Josh McDaniels, at some point in time, when are the Raiders are just going to finally just let him go? I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo,
they tried to make that lame excuse that last year they couldn't fire him because they had no money. But how in the world did you get Jimmy G here?
Yeah,
if he had no money. Like,
and speaking with the Raiders too, it's also the fact that you also made they forced Derek Carr out because of kind of blame for their failures. First of all, that's your organizational problem. This dude, what he could do, but when you look at how Derek Carr broke in this league, he has nothing to work with, and still,
all bro had was a hurt Hunter Renfrow who wasn't even there half the game.
Waller, when he was there, could not stay healthy worth a damn.
A hurt Waller, and then you gave him Devontae Adams, which, sure, that was a good move. Give him Devontae Adams.
Yeah, cool. His former college teammate.
What about everyone else?
Exactly.
Yeah, you got your wide out, but where everybody else is hurt.
Exactly.
What are you giving him? One player, pretty much.
Exactly.
Like, come on.
Not really, and it's like we saw it. And look at last year. The offensive he's not the most mobile by any stretch of the imagination, but this dude was running for his life because that offensive line is not doing. We've seen in this league with multiple teams, Raiders included, their offensive line is suspect as hell. And I'm not saying because I think
Washington's worse. Washington's a lot worse.
Oh, well, jeez.
Oh, we'll get to that one. Hold on.
Ay, ay, ay.
Let's segue to that one right now.
Yeah. That was
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, that
37-3. Final score.
that was humiliating. If you're a Commanders fan, and I can say because I'm a Commanders fan, I just finished my podcast like almost 5 hours ago, and I just went off on the offensive line. I mean, 9 times Sam Howell was sacked in that game. 19 to 29 for like 170 something yards, I think. 4 interceptions, including a pick 6. Bottom line was the reason why we lost this game because of turnovers. We didn't run the football as much as we should have. I mean, Brian Robinson had.
I mean, like you said it best. You got 2 of the best underrated running backs. And I will state that fact. Look, rivalry aside, as an Eagles fan, I have liked Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. The fact you can't run it with those two people, that's concerning. And I say number
dude, bro gets shot 2 weeks before a big game.
Yes,
it's
like he gets shot 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks later, he's running all over the place. Like, dude,
and what
are you, freaking Terminator? Jesus, man.
But the one thing that I've seen with Washington over the last couple of years, Riverboat Ron, this has got to be the last straw for Riverboat Ron. I think he's been so out of touch because I know, and it's like, what's funny because what I mean by that, if you don't remember,
even I knew it was a bad hire because Ron Rivera didn't amount to nothing after 2015.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I think that 2015 carried him to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, that's the way I look at it. And what I mean by when I mentioned that he was out of touch, if you don't remember the clip that was going around that went viral, said, he didn't know he can get eliminated. It's like, dude, you've been in this league long enough as a head coach, you don't know that. I was like, oh,
he's out of touch with today's time. I didn't mind the hire at first only because of 2 things that he provided: leadership and defense, which he's known for. Not one time in that game Josh Allen was sacked. Not one time.
Oh,
and
that's
also Eric Bieniemy. Look, I'm sorry, I have to hold Eric Bieniemy accountable because again, you're the offensive coordinator. You're the one responsible for calling the plays, and yet we only carried the ball 13 times. 13 times. Meanwhile, we throw the ball 29 times. This is not Kansas City's offense when we heavily rely on throwing the football. Washington, they're best suited at best running the football. But Sam Howell, he was atrocious. That's some of those sacks that's on him because he does hold on to the football a little too long, which causes the sacks. But the offensive line, Andrew Willie and all of them, they were just that bad.
No, I can see going to be even worse. Moved on from him,
and it's only going to be even worse. Yeah, and it's only going to be even worse this upcoming Sunday when they face the Eagles at the Eagles.
Yeah,
because look at that front 7. Look at that front 7 for the Eagles, man. Like that's going to be hell.
Yeah, and for those who, and kind of a little bit of preview to that as well, because look, I know we haven't really played it until later tonight. A lot of things, and look, with Washington, like I said, I was never full hating on Washington. I know there's potential to be very competitive, but the problem was there's a lot of things that were holding this franchise back. With obviously Snyder was one of them. The head coaching hasn't really been great over the years. You had one of the biggest what ifs in if RG3 if his knee didn't explode, for lack of a better term. It's like Washington's a big question mark for me. And there's no disrespect to the Washington football team. It's just and he said it best. You could see it each and every week. Offensive line is kind of completely garbage. I mean, outside.
And let me piggyback off of that, Rob. Let me piggyback off of that. There's a saying in football: it starts and ends in the trenches. And if you can't even start a game in the trenches, and you can't even do good in the trenches, come on.
You're going to get games like these.
You can't get, and it's on both sides of the football. Defense couldn't sack Josh Allen. Offense couldn't, block for Sam Howell. They couldn't do nothing.
Yeah,
and it showed.
It showed, and it goes to, and for Washington, there's going to be a lot of problems because, again, it's just only going to get worse. You got to deal with the Eagles defense next week. You got to deal with the Cowboys twice a year. You got to deal with a lot of problems. Sam Howell right now is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL. And in 3 games, 19 sacks.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, it's bad for them because that offensive line is just atrocious.
God, this kind of reminds me when Joe Burrow in his rookie year, remember how bad his O-line was, and he got sacked.
Bro,
I think
he got sacked so much when he got sacked so much in one game. His first game, he got sacked so much. He was out first game.
Yeah, tore his ACL. It's like
tore his ACL.
I'm
like,
and I felt bad for the
Washington, if this continues to go, you're probably going to have to go with Jacoby Brissett.
It's like and I know that's not really the other better option. Look, I like Brissett. I think he's played himself a nice career as a backup, but it's just, and I've said this too. You know, ever since you guys moved on from Kirk Cousins, you could not get your franchise quarterback straight. I'm sorry, right. I will hold by that, and you can tell. Look, Kirk Cousins, yeah, like I said, whether you like him or hate him, the one respect you got to give him, he's one of the best game managers you could see. Well, which will, let's
get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, that's the deciding factor in this game. It began and ended in the trenches, and it's not in a good way either. Not in a good way.
And as Sports PSP said, it's not going to be easy for the next couple of weeks because you're gonna.
It's not. You got that stretch of games where it's going to be hard.
And I feel bad for Washington fans, anyways. It's like you got to pull up with this crap over the what? How long has it been? I don't know. I'm not going to keep track on that.
Dealing with Snyder, 24 years.
God,
we haven't won a championship since like what, 90, 91 or something like that?
Something like that. And you had
I'll look that up for you. I'll look that up. Hold on.
Because oh boy. As much as we laughed at some other franchises that are dysfunctional, it's just it just seems like Washington is one of those franchises they they have potential to be a contending team. Just it's all of a sudden it's a crappy ownership for lack of the last jeez. God,
it's the poster boy for embarrassment.
Yeah, but then again, can't be worse than embarrassment than the Bears.
Yeah, the last championship the last championship that they won was in 1992.
Got it. Jeez, my mom was. Here's the funny thing: my mom was a sophomore in Actually, she was graduating in 96. Senior. I'm trying to do some math here. She was a freaking freshman in high school the last time Washington. Oh. Yeah, trust me, Mom.
Last time Washington was in the Super Bowl and won it, my mother was, I think, a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, that should tell you how long it's been.
That's how long it's been since the last championship. And I'm 25.
Yeah. So, boy. Like I said, I want to see Washington succeed because for me, I'm kind of the person like I like us in Dallas finishing, but I said, you know what? I want more. I want another team to at least somewhat compete with us and not be like a laughing stock. That's for me.
Bro, we thought it was the dang Giants. And we're like, I think they have something here. They have something here. And then this year, nothing.
Only good silver lining if you're Washington, you finally have new ownership so that we no longer have this argument or debate who's the worst owner, Daniel Snyder or James Dolan. So that's
James Dolan for sure.
All right, next first hated owner. Tell that to Bears fans. I've been hearing that nonstop from Bears fans I know personally. Gooley, and I know Gooley's one of them, and I feel bad for this dude. Dude's so known to the bullshit that the Bears. Speaking with the Bears, I actually wanted to segue into that one.
Let's talk about that.
Fuck? I'm sorry. I'm sorry with an F-bomb, but what the hell was that? Holy Jesus!
I'm telling you, man. It's that effect, bro. That Travis Kelce effect. Travis Kelce had his girl there. You know he had added motivation to go off.
But 35 first half points. You can't even script that on freaking Madden if you even tried.
Should have actually been 41 though, because Marquez Valdez-Scantling, his touchdown was overturned though by that penalty.
Yeah, I call a lot of that. I call bullshit. That was BS in my eyes. I'm
It
sorry.
actually was 41. It was 41-10, the final score.
Yeah.
Nope.
But I said this with Justin Fields in terms
I feel
of
bad for this kid,
confidence.
anyways.
In terms of confidence, and I said this on my podcast, it's like Ben Simmons, man. The dude doesn't seem scared.
Oh, yeah, don't remind me.
That analogy, dude. That analogy is just too perfect.
Like, there's no and you can't really feel bad for Justin Fields because, like, not because of the Ohio State narrative that Ohio State can't produce solid quarterbacks. Like, he was never going to succeed anyways because let's be real. The thing with the Bears is they haven't really had a solid winning season since when Lovie Smith was there. They went 10-6. Have Rex freaking Grossman of all freaking people, that's not really saying much. And honestly, if you looked at the history of this franchise, they've been rebuilding since 1986. It's been well over 30 plus years after you win a Super Bowl in 1985. I'm sorry, but and I even said this too. Look, I made a little rant about this, so Tyler, I'm sorry if I have to rant, but
bro. You don't have to say I'm sorry. You're the executive producer. If you want to rant about this, rant.
Sorry, the McCaskies have to sell. The only way the McCaskies can ever sell this franchise is when, as Gooley puts it, when Virginia McCaskey kicks the bucket. And I'm not kidding. That's from coming from the Gooley. He just does not. He wants new ownership. He wants everything, wiped clean with the Chicago Bears. That's the way I look at it.
But let me segue from an incompetent offense or an incompetent team to another incompetent team. Let's talk about Dolphins Broncos.
Oh, yeah, no.
70-20. 70-20.
Denver. All your
Denver. Like a college football game. It was like
literally it was a college football game.
It's pretty much like a Georgia beating up on a crappy.
Or no, it's like if Georgia beat a Division II team.
Exactly, that's where I almost going. A crappy Division II team.
It was like playing Madden. It was like playing the rookie version of Madden. That's
exactly.
how
bad. Exactly. It's like playing rookie mode on Madden with the sliders turned up.
It's bad enough you had Mike White torch your ass. You had David Achain. Boy, Tyra showed a meme with that with everybody on the ground. That should tell you how bad that was, figuratively speaking. David Achain, I like
literally that picture has become a meme. So everybody at this point, if you're a football fan, y'all must have seen it. But
boy, after that game, there's been memes galore. Not on Facebook, TikTok's been running wild with it.
Everywhere there's been memes because of this game, and it's. But the one meme is like if you wanted a picture of like one picture to describe that entire game, and there was like a bunch of like Broncos defenders. They're all laying down, and then you have what's his name again?
David Achain.
Achain just running down the field.
A rookie running on you for 4 freaking touchdowns.
A rookie burnt and broke the ankles of every single defender.
And the fact they didn't have Jalen Waddle. See, that's how dangerous. This is why I think how dangerous the Dolphins can be. Yeah, they didn't have Jalen Waddle, but you have other competent pieces to help them win games. And
look at the competition that they had to go against. Ain't much competition there.
I'm thinking when I look at it, I say, yeah, I can see. I didn't really say this before the game, but in my head, say, I'm going to see a crazy high scoring from the offense from the. Oh no!
Somebody has to win next week. The Broncos or Bears. It's gonna be the battle of the basement bowl. No, you know what that is. Do you know what that is? That is the legit. No, everyone else makes a joke like, "Oh, it's a toilet bowl." This is the legitimate toilet bowl.
Yeah,
the toilet bowl.
Because speaking with the Denver Broncos, when it's like, okay, you got Sean Payton, maybe that will at least help improve things. Not exactly. The O-line still is crappy. You don't have Jerry Judy's been very disappointing. The running back, look, I think they have a solid, decent running game.
Javonte Williams, yeah.
He's got to stay healthy. He can. Let's be real. I don't think he's been kind of a little bit injury prone. Defense was let's be real. Boy, Cardinals.
What defense, Rob? What defense? They all lay on the ground. There was no defense.
And here's the funny part.
Defense stayed home.
So here's the funny thing I want to bring up. I've seen a lot of Cardinals fans laughing at the Denver Broncos because their defensive coordinator is Vance Joseph. A lot of Cardinals fans know how bad Vance Joseph is.
Do you know what's sad about this game, though? Do you know what's sad about this game?
Shoot,
Russ wasn't that bad in this game.
This is the best Russ is.
That's the bad part. Russ was not bad. He went 23. Dude, let me read the stats, though. He went 23 for 38, 306 yards, a touchdown. He did throw a pick, but he played a decent game, and the defense just sold.
But that's on Sean Payton because last year he bragged. He acted all big, bold, and brash and talked about how bad the coaching was with Nathaniel Hackett. You're there to help out Russell Wilson. And granted, Russell Wilson has played better compared to last season. But last year, what kept Denver in the games was their defense. And now they look like a catastrophe. I mean, they look like burnt toast. I mean, it's like they burnt the meal.
Bro, I don't even think they're even burnt toast. The bread is disintegrated at this point.
Because the way, because when you look at it, because look, Denver, because we all knew they're like, God, it's been what going on 8 years now. The last time they ever had have a winning season. Or
2015. 2015 was the last one.
They've just been nothing but a disappointment. You have Chargers fans laughing at you. You have Kansas City laughing at your ass. You got except for the Raiders fans. They're just eating their feelings away, basically, so to speak. But
I'm trying to figure out, as a Commanders fan, which loss was more embarrassing, the Bills or the Dolphins one.
I would say the Dolphins.
I would say the Dolphins. I would say the Dolphins one's way more embarrassing than what you guys do.
Bulls, given his post game thoughts, he's like, yeah, they play it like crap. And he said he's been there 7 years, and all he's seen is losing.
But do you know what I hated about the Sean Payton as a coach? Now he's backstage, or not backstage. He's in the press conference room fighting with reporters over a question.
Yeah, like I said, I think Sean Payton.
I'm like, are you kidding me, dude?
See, I don't think.
What other question are they going to ask? Oh, they keep asking, why do I suck? Or why does the team suck?
I mean,
well, you gave up 70 points. What question do you expect them to ask?
At least I saw Deion Sanders get grilled with questions, and he didn't respond like that after that loss against Oregon.
At least they say, "Look,
Deion Sanders owned up and said, hey, we did not play well."
Like basically, in other words, he knows that they play like shit. So we got to get back on the plane and get back to work.
Yeah, but bottom line, this is on Sean Payton. As much criticism as Russ, I can't necessarily blame.
I think it's on the coaching staff in its entirety.
I don't think you can blame Russ at all in this game. He balled out.
Did what he could.
You can't blame that much from Russ because you can't expect the offense to score 70 points in order for you to come back and win that game unless you're playing in the NBA level. But the bottom line is Sean Payton, you don't write checks that your ass can't check. And he talked about how good, he talked about how bad Nathaniel Hackett was. He talked about how bad the team was last year. Well, 0-3.
Because I talked to Tyler on the phone about this. You can't recover from an 0-3 start unless you somehow have a miraculous hot stretch, which a lot of times.
At this point in the season last year, they were 1-2. That should tell you something right there. And then you have Sean Payton starting 0-3.
And honestly, yeah. And I don't think I'll say this too with Sean Payton. I think he's another coach that's been out of touch. And the fact that he's only won, because after he won that one Super Bowl with New Orleans, hasn't really been the same ever since. Maybe that's just me, or when you look at it.
Another issue that I have is Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator. What was that? What are you telling these guys in practice?
Exactly. Or what is your scheme? That's what I'm wondering.
Lay down and die in third quarter?
Pretty much. Because if you think about it, when you looked at when Vic Fangio was there last year, they had a solid defense under Vic Fangio. And all of a sudden, it's like, now we're going to have to take it. And now you saw how good the Dolphins defense is with now having Vic Fangio as that boy, talking about the karma is a bitch, ain't it? I just want to say.
But when you have guys like Tua carving you up, Mike White throwing a dime, Mike White of all players throwing a dime.
Yeah, and look, I'll say this too with Mike White. Mike White is a decent backup. Like I said, he's not really something's flashy, but you know your defense is still ass, or as Shady would say, he is ass. Like it's us. Like,
yeah, they're ass. Like they're not just ass, Rob. They're ass.
Like you have Mike White torching you. What did Mike White have? What did Mike White? Robbie freaking Anderson torches you of all freaking people. I was like, oh, that's just
that dude has not been good in quite some time.
And yet you made him look like freaking Randy Moss out there. And that's not saying much. And
mind you, they did this without Jalen Waddle.
Exactly. Without Jalen Waddle, their star receiver.
You won't have your number two. And see, and here's the ironic part that Tyra showed me this. Mike McDaniel was a ball boy for the Denver Broncos, and let's be real, karma is a cold-hearted mistress, and you saw it right then and there. Took revenge on a team that
you saw it, and this is specifically on the Sports and Wrestling Connection. Has no tie. This show has no ties to Sports Wave, so I'm going to reiterate what he said, but in a more edgier way. Karma's a bitch.
It really is, but
it really is.
I think, and I'll say this too. I think Mike McDaniel is when the Dolphins hired McDaniel, say, you know what, I think this is going to work because I feel like Tua. I think, look, we saw what Tua his potential when he's healthy, and especially under Mike McDaniel, we've seen potential. Let's be real, seeing what because obviously now. I talked to Tyra about this too yesterday. Because one of the things that I've nitpicked with the Dolphins is the offensive line. The one thing, and he's reassured the offensive line. Tua is actually finally getting. Let's be real. Boy, got clean.
Only problem with Tua is can he stay healthy?
Yeah, that's my biggest question mark. But right now, if he can stay healthy for a full season, I think this team can be a Super Bowl contender. And I'll put that on. I think that it's right on record. And honestly, I think they can take this division away from Buffalo. Well. Yeah. Like I said, I don't think Buffalo isn't for me. If you're a Buffalo Bills fan, sorry, I'm going to piss you up, but I think they're the most overhyped, overrated, and the most fraudulent team in the AFC East. It's the way I look at it. Look at last year.
But I agree with that.
You got embarrassed on your home turf by the Bengals.
Yeah. You got embarrassed by the Bengals, and then you got embarrassed again week 1 against the Jets.
Well, that's because of Josh Allen, and since he's came into the NFL, he leads the NFL in turnovers. So that's what's going to kill you.
Yeah, that's concerning.
That's not saying much, to be honest, because that's ugh. But Tua Tagovailoa, Tua Tagovailoa, 23 for 26, 309 yards and 4 touchdowns. Mike White.
Oh,
2 for 2, 67 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
Don't forget Mostert.
And I bet you amount of money, half of those 67 yards, where's that bomb?
Probably. And as Sports PSP was going to bring in Raheem Mostert, who I've kind of nitpicked a little bit because he's another guy I've always labeled injury prone, especially during his time with San Francisco. But yeah, there was the secondary, the pass defense was completely non-existent. And that run defense it's pretty much like Finding Nemo, basically. And that was the one thing too, what I took away from this too is just like, when you, especially from the Dolphins side of things, when you give Tua a clean pocket, which this dude can sling it better with the best of the best. But, obviously when he came in, it's like we had our question mark with him. Like, obviously he dealt with a hip injury during a senior year at Alabama. Unfortunately, dealt with 3 concussions in his last year. And there was a lot of question marks surrounding Tua. Like, is he really the franchise guy? Because with the Dolphins, people will think of the Dolphins, like, who was their last franchise guy? Was the great Dan Marino, which is another guy that never really won the Super Bowl after his last game. Got their asses whooped by the Jacksonville Jaguars, 62-7. That was in 2000. That was bad. But good good offensive win by the that's a good win overall by the Dolphins. Because like I said, I think this because let's be real. I think we all know the AFC East is one of the most competitive, tough divisions, and well, let's be real. Obviously, I think what does Miami play Buffalo next week? I think
at Buffalo.
Oh,
at Buffalo next week.
So for those who might want to keep an eye on that because that's going to be one of the most important games going into Week 4. But I still think I got Miami winning that. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think that defense from Buffalo, I think they still got a solid defense. But as Sports PSP brought it up, obviously Josh Allen is kind of very reckless with the football. Well, that's what we've seen. But moving on.
We got Lions and Falcons 20-6. Lions.
Yeah. Honestly,
I think the Lions look good. Their defense, Aiden Hutchinson played very well, had a couple of digit sacks in that game. Jared Goff has looked really good. It seems like a rejuvenation for him since he got traded to Detroit. Last year, I thought he should have made the Pro Bowl, given the numbers that he put up this season.
That's exactly.
Yeah. And you look at it, I mean, they should be 3-0. I mean, they lost a tough one last week at home to Seattle in overtime. But when you look at the Lions, man, it's great. It's great for the city of Detroit, and it's also great in the NFC because I'm tired. Because of course, there's Eagles, there's the Cowboys, and there's the 49ers. But it's always interesting to hear some team, especially like an underdog team, especially for an organization in a city like Detroit who has struggled for so long.
Yeah, they've been really obviously.
Well.
A fun fact for those who really don't pay attention about the Lions, it's been rebuilding since 1957.
Yeah.
It's and obviously Forrest, one of the best running backs, greatest running backs of all time, and Barry Sanders to retire early, and same with Megatron. And that
so right now they're having the most success that they've had for a while.
I think they're legit. Yes,
they are. But let's quickly go through the stats here. Jared Goff, 22 for 33, 243 yards, a touchdown and a pick. Desmond Ridder, 21 for 38, 201 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, he had a pretty good game, 17 carries, 80 yards. And Bijan Robinson, 10 carries, 33 yards.
How many yards for Bijan?
33.
Okay, so that's what you had to do if you had to beat Atlanta because, again, how dynamic Bijan is. And Atlanta, I'm still not sold on them, particularly their quarterback and Desmond Ridder. But when I look at Detroit, they're loaded, with Amami St. Brown, Gibbs. They have pieces. They have the team going forward. The question has been about their defense. So hopefully as time goes on, they'll get better. As for Atlanta, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to have to do regarding the quarterback. The question is, should they trade to get a quarterback? Because when you look at the NFC South Division, it's still open, whether if it's Tampa, New Orleans, Carolina at this point, they're 0-3. So I think for Atlanta, and I've said this, should Arizona trade Kyler Murray to Atlanta?
I have no idea, man. I don't know what they should do with Kyler Murray, to be honest, because he didn't have the best season last year. So I don't know how that would fare, to be honest.
But here's why I think it would be nice, though. You put him with that offense, because you look at Atlanta with Bijan Robinson, with the read option with Kyler and Bijan, and not only that, you have Kyle Pitts, who should be the best tight end in that division. I think he is, and should be in the discussion as best tight ends in the NFL. You have Drake London as well. You got a plethora of options, weapons for Kyler to throw the football to, and he's in Atlanta. If there's never a place for Atlanta fans to remind them of the good old days with Michael Vick and to electrify and energize their fan base, why not Kyler? I mean, outside of Lamar Jackson, and Justin Fields and other quarterbacks, you can make a case for Kyler being the most athletic quarterback in the NFL when healthy. Atlanta, I just think they're just a quarterback away.
And then one thing is when you separate, look at the talent discrepancy between the Cardinals and the Falcons. The one thing you always look at is the trench line. I think Atlanta has a solid offensive line. It's just, like I said, not just from Michael Vick, but also they haven't had a solid other franchise quarterback, and other than Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan has done a lot of good for them over the years, but it's just ever since they really moved on from him. I mean, at the worst possible time. Like she says, Desmond Ritter, even in college, like I was like, I don't think, I just never was. It just never really just didn't like the appeal with Desmond Ritter in college at Cincinnati. I mean, look, Kyle Pitts, boy, it's sucks to be fantasy owners, but dude, that dude's been fucking disappointing the last couple of years. It's like, I'm worried for Kyle Pitts.
Hey Rob, if you get another StreamYard thing, don't be alarmed. It's just me signing into my phone. My charger is like is not when I'm on StreamYard, this charger drains my battery still. So I'm gonna
weird
go on my phone.
But yeah, so while it's like, and to really piggyback off of that too, you also got to make an argument too. Like if the Falcons do decide want to trade for Kyler, he'll be right now the second best quarterback talent in that division. Let's be real. I got you.
All right, bro.
Yeah, I think if Kyler were there, I think you can make a case he's the best quarterback in that division. Because if you look at him, I mean, Derek Carr, I like Derek Carr, but he's proven he's an okay quarterback. Then you look at Bryce Young. I like Bryce Young, but the concern, just like with Kyler, has been the size and durability part. And then you look at Atlanta with Desmond Ritter. Okay, and then after Desmond Ritter, there's Taylor Heineke, who did a serviceable job for the Commanders, but at the same time, he's not someone that you can look at as the long-term solution. So why not Kyler? But back to Detroit, I think Aiden Hutchinson, my God, I loved him coming out of Michigan. The knock on him was the athleticism part, but the bottom line is the tape doesn't lie. Can he translate into the NFL? And he's been
he showed it in his first 2 years. And what's kind of crazy about that is like I actually had him go number 1 overall, but the fact with the Jags took Trayvon Walker side, boy, I think they're gonna really gonna regret not picking Hutchinson. And well, kind of in the sense you can see it in his first 2 years. I mean, look, no disrespect to Trayvon Walker, but I don't think Trayvon was worth a number 1 overall pick. There's certain guys that are just not number 1 pick over.
I think they just took him because of Georgia and because of what Georgia was mostly known for and the athleticism. But my thing is, how has he panned out in the NFL so far?
Quite honestly, who knows? Because I feel like Aiden Hutchinson, when you look at that edge rushing draft class, right now it's definitely Aiden Hutchinson who's really shown us, like, 9.5 sacks last year. I think he's like 2 or 3 this year. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised, he makes it. There's an argument to be made. He could be defensive player of the year because, you got guys like Michael. You got to go going against like guys like Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa,
TJ Watt.
Yeah, TJ Watt. If JJ Watt didn't have the health problems he had, maybe JJ Watt. I think JJ Watt, I would say, had at least another good 2 to 3 years in him if he didn't have that heart problem. But
yeah.
But and I really like I said, and the Lions are playing in a wide open division. Which I don't think we ever talked about the Vikings, which that's also concerning too if you're a Vikings fan going forward, because now
Should they trade Kirk Cousins?
I've been seeing that a lot. And from Daniel Craig Carton, even though as Philly sports people, we hate his guts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like if you're talking about the way that's like, trade him to the Jets, it's like I'm not entirely too sure. But yeah, you're in his final year. And the one thing about it is like that defense is still suspect. I don't know why they haven't addressed that. Lewis Dean looks like a bust. Andrew Booth, as I mentioned, as a Clemson dude, stinks. I really hate to say it. That pains me to say it. But it's
that
just
last touchdown by Herbert that should have been picked off though.
Yeah.
And then it just
Honestly, quite honestly, look, I'm not mad if I took the L on the pick'em, but the Chargers got lucky. Let's be real. They got
Brandon
super
Staley,
lucky.
yeah, Herbert. I mean, that
Let's
was
go right
another.
to that game. Let's go right to that game, guys.
Because our boy
Look, I
Jake
take nothing away. I take nothing away from what Justin Herbert accomplished. I mean, he's very talented.
Chargers game.
That last possession, yeah, that's on the Vikings. They converted. They got the 4th and 5 first down, but the problem was they were wasting clock. And on the very next play,
you couldn't clock the football. They give your guys a break.
Yeah, you
that's
could
what-
have clocked the football there that last drive for sure.
and then they threw an interception. But the takeaway was for me, Brandon Staley got lucky, very lucky.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jake would agree with you at that too, because boy, I can't count many many times. This and our boy Jake, shout out to our boss at the Sports League Network. He's a diehard Chargers fan. Boy, how do I put that?
Dude, our boss Jake said if they started 0-3, give Brandon Staley the pink slip.
He should have got the pink. Let's be real. I'll be completely honest. He should have got the pink.
He should have got the pink slip last year.
After that Jacksonville game.
I mean, Justin Herbert, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. Like after that game against Jacksonville last year, like give him that pink slip right now.
Yeah.
Like that was an atrocious coaching.
Yeah.
Atrocious coaching.
Herbert 40 for 47, 405 with 3 touchdowns. Keenan Allen actually got a pass in there too. It's like
also thank you, Rob, for reading the stats because I'm using my Xbox to run the NFL app, and for some reason on the NFL app on Xbox don't even get the stats.
I got you.
So
unfortunately for the Chargers, they're gonna have to go without Mike Williams for the rest of the season.
Yeah. That's fair. And as much as I love Mike Williams, I think he might be. And it's just like the dude. But then again, and I can see why Quentin Johnson. I thought was a nice little wide receiver prospect. So I think we're going to see a lot of him and Keenan Allen. And also, it also depends if they're going to Austin Eckler back next week or whenever when he comes back.
That would be huge if it is next week that they get Austin Eckler back.
Also, J.C. Jackson, what the fuck, man? What the hell is your problem?
He's a product of Belichick's defense.
It's not just that. Now he's got a warrant. Look, I don't know that this probably might have flew under the radar for some people.
Wait, he has a warrant?
He has a warrant out when he got arrested for criminal speeding.
When did this news drop?
This was earlier in the day.
Oh my God. I must have missed it.
Because it came on Twitter, and by this Twitter account, GPA Football. So this was early after about over a couple hours ago, saying that quote a warrant has been issued for the arrest of Chargers cornerback J.C. Jackson for violating his probation. Per Mass Live Boston, probably another news source that's kind of flows. But Jackson was supposed to appear in court or a probation violation hearing last Friday, stemming from a 2021 arrest for criminal speeding.
So what happened was he skipped out on probation meetings.
Pretty much. And
then you're a moron if you're doing that. But let's go to our next game.
And Mike Williams is only 20. Yeah, God, Mike. I thought Mike Williams was a little bit older than that. Yeah.
But let's go to our next game. Texans and Jaguars.
I gotta say, I think,
bro, that Texans defense is for real.
I mean,
Nico Ryans has been a huge plus for the team, given the fact that he was the former.
He knows that franchise.
Yeah, he knows it, and
he's been around that franchise. But I told folks, CJ, you got yourself a really good quarterback in CJ Stroud.
And trust me, that's what me and Retired talking about a couple of days ago. Like we
were talking about. And let me tell you what I was telling Rob a couple of days ago on Friday on our sports show. I think CJ Stroud could be the guy that could break that mold of Ohio State quarterbacks. Hold on, let me finish. He could be the guy that could break the mold of Ohio State quarterbacks being busts in the NFL. He could be the guy that could break the mold. And I could see it.
And honestly, looking out, and that's the thing. To look at the offensive pieces he's got. Tank Dell, who boy, that kid's going to be fucking special for them. Oh boy,
They got
His
the good
first
running
name
back
is
there,
gonna,
Damian Pierce.
dude, Damian Pierce is still a solid. Like they got it's
dude. I'm telling you, Tank Dell. His first name is gonna be literal soon. He's gonna be a tank in the NFL.
what's
Let me
crazy.
tell you that, man.
I mean, boy. I mean, look. Whether you're with CJ, boy, he's got a pretty deep ball. When you get him a nice clean pocket with that deep ball, boy, Tank Dell was just let's be real, pretty much torching that supposedly a good Jacksonville defense was. Well, let's be real,
atrocious job by that defense.
And
37 points.
And it pains me to say it. Trevor Lawrence played like shit. And it pains me to say it.
It pains me to say it too. He did play like shit. He did.
Awful.
He was terrible.
Tank Dell had 5 catches for a $145, 1 touchdown, 7 targets. I gotta say, Robert Woods, as much as he's not the same player as he used to be, he's having a nice, solid season with the Texans. As your thought, 3 catches for 34 yards? Yeah, he's not going to be the kind of guy that'll give you. I mean, he's the kind of guy I could see 60 to 70 yards.
He's not going to
mostly.
Yeah, he's not going to. But he's not going to be the guy to give you like 10 catches for over 200 yards. Like he ain't going to do that. He'll give you maybe the short yardage slant routes for first downs.
Yeah, pretty much is basically exactly.
But what
like, he's not going to give you.
Go ahead.
Like he isn't going to give you that go route. He's going to give you that slant route
or
first downs.
Through.
But what I love about it is that the AFC South is a lot more competitive than what we thought.
Yeah, finally.
And finally, Trevor Lawrence, I don't even know he's by far the best quarterback in that division. Sooner or later, we may have a discussion about who's the
That is going to be an interesting topic of discussion. Like, who's the best quarterback in terms of quarterback play in the AFC South? Because right now, as it stands, it's definitely got to be C.J. Stroud. I think, and the fact that C.J. Stroud is 3rd in the league in passing in terms of the AFC, and he's only a goddamn rookie. Like, are you?
That's big. That's huge. If you're 3rd in passing through 3 games.
Hey Tyler,
the entire AFC.
Your Ohio State point, just to validate your Ohio State point, C.J. Stroud has had more 300 passing yard performances than Justin Fields. He has one so far. Justin Fields, 0.
Because, and the way you look at it, because look at, you know what? I think before we play whatever the next game we add, but if you look at the roster construction, the Texans. We look at on paper had probably the better roster construction on paper, but sometimes you look at some of these defensive pieces have to stay healthy. With Jalen Petrie, actually the last time we did last episode, boy, in fact he had top of the almost a serious injury with had to send him to the hospital. I think now you had Derek Stingley. Boy, that I don't know if that's going to be a big loss or not. That's remains to be seen, depending on who the Texans play next week. But really, that is a quick conversation that needs to be had. Like, is Trevor Lawrence really, is he really who we thought he was going to be? Honestly, I don't know. In terms,
at this point, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I don't know.
It pains me because I love the dude.
Dude, he's a Clemson product. We're Clemson fans, and it does pain me too.
Because and it's what's crazy about that is because we're seeing Anthony Richardson, who I have and Tyler can attest to this too. I told him my skepticism. It's like, it's like this dude, dude's a raw prod, only spent 1 year of college, but I was like, but then again, when you have Shane Steichen,
here's the thing, man, he doesn't need any more time in college.
Apparently not.
Apparently not, bro. But let's move on. Let's move on here. Because we only got a few more games left. Patriots and Jets, 15-10 Patriots.
Snooze fest.
Very good defensive game, but if we're gonna talk about Justin Fields being trashed, Zach Wilson.
Oh, we know Zach Wilson is trash.
Oh, we knew that from the jump. Yeah, he's atrocious. He's like, ugh.
Yeah, but. Obviously, good win by the Patriots. Let's get back to the win column because And I mean, like I said, I don't because I think this team might surprise some people, this year. Not in the best way possible. I think they're still going to have a above 500 record, which I do think, especially under Bill Belichick, because shout out to my boy Bobby, who obviously there's been a lot of
Now
he
I
knows
don't. But here's the thing, though, with this game being as close as it shouldn't have been that close.
it really shouldn't.
15-10. I don't. With that game, that tells me there's obvious issues, and that obvious issue is the offense.
Yeah,
Is Mac Jones really the guy?
No, I think Mac Jones is good. Do I think he's going to be all-time great? No, nothing like that. But I do think, though, the 49ers, bottom line, they made a huge mistake taking Trey Lance. And if you actually drafted Mac Jones, I think they would be better because
and
Mac Jones
funny you
would
mentioned
fit
that.
in.
Honestly, I agree with that. And that's the thing. Like, it could be worse for the Patriots, but the thing is, you're
I think
trying to with that owner jumping onto Bill Belichick's bones, saying, "Oh, you need to get a championship within a couple years." With
Well,
Mac Jones, you're not going to do it. Let's be
I
honest.
mean, look at the offensive pieces. I mean, you brought in Zeke Elliott, he's a shell of himself. I mean, still
But
can
that's
give you
also
some.
on Belichick as well. And I think we got to hold Belichick's feet under the fire a little bit more because what has he
Yes,
been
that
since he
too.
caught Tom Brady?
Uh,
Not only he's
yeah,
the head coach, he's
because
also
I
the
brought this
GM.
idea to Tyler as well that I think Belichick got carried by Tom Brady the last
Look
2
at
decades.
last year when they went 8-9 last year. Half
Yep.
of that was discipline issues. Half of their losses
Yeah,
were
because you
discipline.
had Brady, you had Belichick, and Robert Kraft all button heads, which that would led Tom Brady to say, screw.
No. That is not what I'm talking about, Rob. You're not getting what I'm talking about, man. I'm talking about last year when they went 8-9.
Oh yeah, that was
That was all coaching issues.
And not only
That
that,
was
Belichick hired Max Patricia to be a
yeah,
former defensive
that
coordinator
was
to be off. Yeah.
and you had a co-offensive coordinator and Joe Judge as I'm thinking myself, boy. And knowing our boy Bobby Montagna, who's a diehard Boston fan, I.
and here's the thing. That win was so bad. Bobby didn't even celebrate it.
I mean,
He didn't even celebrate that win.
like he
It
knows
was
his
just
team's
like
going to be trash.
and that's the thing. Like, look at us week 1, right? 25-20.
We
We
barely
didn't even
scraped by.
celebrate that. We didn't even celebrate that win.
That still pissed me off, despite if it's a win.
You had me complaining after that win. Like,
Yeah,
and my family's like, why'd you complain? They won. I'm like, by like 15 field goals in a technicality at the end of the game.
Yeah, by a foot.
By a foot. By a foot. Being out of bounds. But let's move on to our next game here. Seahawks Panthers. 37-27 Seahawks.
That was a good game for what it was. I got to give the Panthers some credit.
They did put up a decent. They only cut it to 10 points.
It's just like I said,
their defense is not that good.
It really isn't. I mean, the fact you could have look at some point you could have traded Brian Burns when his value was at the highest as you could. Because I mean, I think Brian Burns is still a solid defensive player. And let's be real. I mean, like I said, and I've said this too. It's like, man, like when they were talking about trading Brian Burns, like, man, might as well do it. Go full rebuild. I mean, look, you got Bryce
might as
Young.
Well, yeah, exactly. Might as well.
That's like okay. In terms of the Seahawks, not well. It wasn't really pretty. I would say in the first half for the Seahawks, it was.
Yeah, that first half was a little bit messy, a little bit wonky, but then they cleaned it up. Got 37 points out of that offense. But yeah, it wasn't pretty in that first half. It really was not pretty. I will say that. Watching the highlights, because of course I missed most of the 1:00 slate of games here. But
yeah.
But yeah, I was watching the highlights. It really wasn't pretty. It really was not pretty. But let's move on to the next game, and we are in our glory because of it. Cardinals versus Cowboys, 28-16.
as embarrassing as that Commanders loss was, and it was embarrassing, nothing makes me more happy than seeing the Cowboys lose.
Yes, brother. Yes.
Because the funny thing is, I've seen a lot of Cowboys fans talking crap.
200 yards rushing they gave up.
Yes.
Yeah, lose to Josh Dobbs of all freaking quarterbacks. You lose to.
Not just Josh Dobbs, the head coach. Jonathan freaking Gannon you lost to.
Yeah, it gets
who's familiar going up against the Cowboys because wasn't he the former DC?
Yeah, he was our DC.
He was our DC and he was trash. Got rid of him because he was so trash. Sold the dang Super Bowl. Thanks, Gannon.
The only great thing about it is that Dallas Cowboy fans can finally shut up for once and realize, okay,
like I said, they got to eat that humble pie, so to speak.
Because put it this way. Put it this way, guys. The only upside of the Eagles making it to the Super Bowl with Jonathan Gannon as defensive coordinator was Brianna was at our game. That was the only upside.
Yeah. And I even said this after the game as well. The only thing I saw from this game was the fact that the Cowboys were constantly shooting themselves in the foot with these costly penalties. Dak was just, and so that's when I did my early power rankings videos, like before the season started, he was one of my biggest questions marks. Like, how much longer can you rely on him? Not the fact he's got a looming contract extension, and we know that Jerry Jones's ego is still bigger than ever. And he tries.
Oh my god, it's been big since '96. You think it's going to change now?
No, not really. Because
when you reach a certain point in age, what's the likelihood of you changing?
It really is. There's really nothing because what's also, and I talked to some, and shout out our boy Doug. Like, boy, he knows, he calls it how he sees it. And yes, you were down 3. Your top lineman, Tyron Smith. Where is he ever going to have a fucking healthy season? You lost Zach Martin to an injury, so you lost your best. Like I said, your backups were not the greatest in terms, and you're letting some of these no-name scrubs beat you on the offensive line. It's like, what am I watching?
But mind you, Arizona, they had to do this without their best player, who's their quarterback, Kyler Murray, who's still recovering from the knee injury. They had to go without Buda Baker. They don't have really a number one wide receiver on that team.
You had Hollywood Brown and Rondell Moore torching you. It's like,
yes.
I was like, that's.
James Conner looked like the James Conner of Pittsburgh.
Oh.
And Dak Prescott, I'm not going to say Dak Prescott played awful, but he didn't play that well.
It was an okay game from Dak. I'll give Dak, it's not the best game
he was
played.
Okay.
Like, and that's the thing too. I would never especially hate the Cowboys. Like, I've always think, Dak is still a talented QB, but it's just, it's like you can't really, like, how much more can you rely on him where, he can do well in the regular season, but when it comes to postseason time in December and January, like, he's like pretty much comes, where's Waldo? And it stinks, man, because the dude, I mean, really, when I look at him on social media, it's like, dude's looks like a phenomenal human being. And honestly,
dude's a good dude. Yeah, the dude's a good dude. It's just that his skill level is just,
it's not.
But the bigger problem, and I told people this, Mike McCarthy. Now Kellen Moore's no longer there as the offensive coordinator. He's no longer calling the plays. That means Mike McCarthy's going to be calling the plays. And I told folks he's nothing more than a product of Favre and Rodgers. Because outside of those quarterbacks, what does he do? He can't manage the game well. I mean, clock management
is nowhere to be existing because
and penalties. A couple of years ago, they had struggles with penalties.
And last year, they were the most heavy penalized team last year. I was like, oh, geez.
And also look at playoff time. Towards the end of the game, they've had blunders on 2 tries.
Last year,
it's only going to get worse for them. Because without Trayvon Diggs, of course.
And I said that yesterday on Twitter as well. Like, losing Trayvon Diggs, that was a blow to the secondary.
Yeah, like as soon as you lost Trayvon Diggs, it was you were.
I'll say this to a lot of Cowboys fans. Look, I'll always respect Trayvon Diggs. I think he's still like if wherever this coaching staff needs to teach him not to give up getting burnt so much. Because if he doesn't really I think this dude could be a top 5 cornerback in this league, and I definitely I will stay on that hill. But for me, it's the only nitpick was he gets burned too much. Now, yes, I mean, you also
put it this way. I got an analogy for you. Trayvon Diggs is like a coin. He has two sides to him. He can give you double digit interceptions, but he's also going to give up 1,000 yards in one season.
Exactly. Like there's times when he has some good games where he only gives say about like a one or at least 50 to about 100. That's when he's on most times.
Yeah.
But then again, no one, and like I said, you had Javon Curse, who let's be real, was kind of completely burnt toast. And yet you had, and look, I like Gilmore, but how much longer does he have on the tires? Let's be completely honest here.
But again, it all falls down to Jerry. Jerry's responsible for putting.
He's trying to build what the Cowboys were in the '90s. Let's call for
and
what
he's
it
failing.
is.
He's failed, dude. He's failed at that since that team, basically blew up by '97.
Yeah, after
the last time they were in the Super Bowl was what, 96?
96.
Yes, and I think the worst thing that happened to Jerry is when he fired Jimmy and then brought in
Barry
Twitcher,
and ever since then, there's been nothing but downhill ever since with the Cowboys.
But that Super Bowl, even though they won that Super Bowl against Pittsburgh back in '96, it might be the worst thing for that franchise history, because since that time, Jerry's been doing it his way. You haven't won a Super Bowl. You haven't gone to a Super Bowl. You haven't even gone to an
game in the last 3 decades.
Yeah.
In
3 decades. 3 decades you have not been back.
Guys like Doug, it's like I could imagine like how the frustration level started ever since then has kind of really been built up over the years. It's like when's enough? Like, I mean, look, you had your 2 best head coaches in that entire franchise history. Tom Landry, who gave you 4 Super Bowls. No, I'm sorry, 3. Then you had Jimmy Johnson with 2, and then you fired both. And let's be real, hasn't really been. I mean, yes. I mean, you also had some Hall of Famers at the end of the day with Emmitt Smith, and let's be real, she never went to Arizona, but that's besides the point.
And but here's the thing, Rob. We dog him about the whole 5 Super Bowl thing. We dog him about it. But let's be honest, you kind of also have to kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah.
Because that's all they have.
Especially to the non-delusional fans that have to constantly see this team have success in the regular season and some just somehow fail. And it's just like, because I know we may not reach them in the terms of Super Bowl count, but when you really look at it, no matter what team they put together, it just seems like
they haven't done it. They hit on Tony Romo, but he was just okay. They hit on Dak, but he was also just okay.
And it's like, I mean, yeah, and look, and I like the addition of Brandon Cooks. I think he actually had a really solid game against the Cardinals, and yes, he's not the same player. I don't think he's not going to be the same player as he once was, but he's a nice little number 2 to CeeDee Lamb, who I thought actually played not that great, quite honestly. When you look at
CeeDee Lamb really struggled in this game.
I was like,
it was pretty bad.
That's like, I was confused because I actually like CeeDee Lamb. It's like, what is this? But at the end of the day, it's like, and I even said this even on social media too. If Dallas is going to have games like these, which I think they're going to do, because Sports PSP said
they're prone to doing these types of things. This is who they are. This is their backbone. They can't help themselves.
They're stuck in their own way, basically.
But that's the whole point. That's the whole emphasis. They can't help themselves. They hype themselves up better than anybody else. But when the moment hits them, what happens?
They fall short.
They fall short.
And look, I've like I said, I've always I even told some of these Cowboys fans, look, as much as they hate y'all from a rivalry standpoint, I'll respect the talent that you guys got in terms of defense.
Yeah. They got some great talent in Dallas, but the problem is they can't utilize it well.
Yeah, exactly.
And the problem with Jerry can't.
Jerry's also the issue too. Yeah, exactly. And it all comes back to that. Jerry Jones.
His ego is too big, and trust me, I heard from a lot of some realist Cowboys fans that none of them, they don't like Jerry and his freaking son.
I heard our buddy Doug just dog Jerry for a good whole show.
Only good thing Stephen Jones ever did is when he convinced Jerry not to draft Johnny Manziel. That was the only thing he did.
Yeah.
Well.
Whatever you do, don't get Johnny because he's a head case. And
look how And that's the thing too. Is like when you really look at the draft picks and look, and I think one thing you will have to see, you got to give Jerry Jones some credit for. He knows how to draft pretty well. That's the one thing I'll give Jerry the benefit of the doubt. But there's a lot of times when you look at it in his press conference, he speaks. Lesbill spills a lot of bull crap. Like in particular, like say, oh, we're in the we had a second round. We could have had Hurts. Like, no, you didn't. Stop lying. Stop lying to yourself.
But Jerry's problem is that he can't help himself. He wants to be Al Davis.
Yeah, and well, let's see. Well, it's kind of looking like, not say really looking like it because, and let's ever since Al Davis passed away, the Raiders have not really been the same ever since. Look, and it stinks mostly for the Raiders, the Raider Nation, but it really shows that that entire, it's been incompetent ever since. And same thing same thing can be said for the Cowboys. Like you would think this team's like, oh, like this team could be not Super Bowl contenders, but right now your biggest expectation you should have is making the title game. Each and every year, like they can't help themselves. Like they're stuck in the Cowboy way of falling short when you really need it. Because like look at last year, you had Zeke behind center, which that was questionable, but also laughable.
Bro flopped, dude. Bro fell like he looked like if I was a blocker. Put it that way.
And the year before that, you had Dak didn't know you didn't have any timeout, so it's like you screwed yourself there.
No, Dak didn't know that he had to give the ball to the ref and try to clock it himself.
I was like, that's football 101.
I'm like, are you dumb? Like this is when I lost brain cells watching that playoff game. I'm like, are you really that dumb?
And yes, has there been some improvements with Dak with Mike McCarthy calling plays? Sure. But the problem is, it's like the execution has been very ugly, and yes, one can make the argument say, yeah, your first 2 weeks, yeah, you played on a shitty Giants team, let's call it for what it is, and shitty Jets offense. And honestly, and actually, you know what? I would say the Jets defense played absolutely like crap against Dallas.
And let me reiterate this too. This all circles back around to Jerry.
And it's what
and that's what I'm doing.
But what does Jerry want at the end of the day? Because if you want to win your fourth Super Bowl, man,
you're six. Actually, they have five. They're tied. They're tied with the Niners in terms of Super Bowl titles. Even let's real Niners.
Well, I thought Jerry, as an owner, he has three.
Really? Oh yeah. That's right. I'm an idiot.
It's all good.
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
I gotta read and do some, but yeah. Because I think
Jerry,
he had
bottom line. No,
he had two with Jimmy Johnson. I think one with the last year of Tom Landry before he. Look, I would say, and yes, after Jimmy Johnson, Bill Parcells wasn't that terrible, but it wasn't the greatest. I mean, look, Bill Parcells has coached some better teams over the years. I mean, the Jets, well, mostly the Patriots. That's what he's known for. But it's like
it wasn't. But to sum this up, because I have to move on here. Sum this up. Not pretty for the
it's
for
concerning
the Cowboys
if they're going to have games like these again, because
we already finished a point, Rob. We already finished a point. Let's move on, right?
I think we missed one game. That's New Orleans and Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that.
That was a great comeback.
That was a good game. Oh my gosh!
Screwed me at pick'ems. That's what happened.
Unfortunately, 18, for the Saints, they're gonna have to see without Derek Carr because of that joint.
Yeah.
So who's it gonna be? It has to be Jameis because
it looks like it's gonna be Jameis because you let Andy Dalton walk to Carolina for what in free agency.
Well, you got either Jameis or Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill is way worse than Jameis, to be honest. Let's be honest here.
Right.
I mean, the one thing I will say about the Saints, like, they're too damn pass heavy. When you really look at it at the end of the day, under Jameis Winston, they are too damn pass heavy.
Good thing for them, Alvin Kamara is coming back from the 3-game suspension.
That's true.
Right. So we got to wait and see how he comes back, even though he's been away. Still, in order to be in football shape, you have to be able to play football. Jameis Winston's only problem is turnovers. So, in order for the Saints to win, Jameis Winston has to play smart, conservative football. He's going to have to take chances, but it can't be dumb chances to the point where it's going to cost the team games. So you're gonna have to live with some of the good and some of the bad with Jameis. I mean, Jameis at this point, do I think he could win you a few games here and there? Sure.
Sure.
But Saints should win the division because they have a really good defense.
I mean, right now they're
more,
probably the most talented team right now in that division when you look at it on paper.
they are
In terms of quarterback play, it's definitely Derek Carr. And yes, right now, and to really add to that, it's like you're right now the biggest coach in that division. I think is right now on the hot seat is Dennis Allen. If Dennis Allen can't make, it's like Dennis Allen, like he's kind of risky.
Right.
I would say he wants to risk it most times. And you could have had took it, especially in that game. You could have taken the field goal when you had the opportunity.
Yeah, you could have taken that field goal. You could have for sure.
But
the scoreline here is 18-17, guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a lot of credit to the Packers because they came back from that came back from that lead. I think it's their 11th consecutive game. They've had a home opener and they've won. Jordan Love is making you forget less and less about Aaron Rodgers.
And to add to that too, they actually made some because both Favre and Rodgers never had a 17-point comeback. Jordan Love's the only one who has done it. And right now, the biggest question mark is like, can really Jordan Love, can he play well since he's sitting behind Rodgers for a few years? And right now, we've seen so far with they're 2-1. I've liked what I've seen from Jordan Love. Yeah, and yes, you didn't really have your top.
To me, I feel like this was a test because, all right, you're behind 17 points.
Like, how do you respond?
What can you do to come back in this game? And he was a great game manager. He was a great. He knew how to utilize his receivers, and he came back.
And Matt LaFleur, I think, is a pretty solid coach. I don't think he gets enough credit and he deserves. But
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. And they did this without one of their best offensive linemen. Aaron
didn't
Jones
have Aaron Jones, and you didn't have Christian Watson.
Right. So you were still able to pull off the victory and get the job done. So this NFC North division, is pretty interesting to see between Detroit and Green Bay. But man, Minnesota, my God.
Yeah. And it's like, because I even said this before the season started, I thought Green Bay was going to take a bit of a step back because, you're going to have Jordan Love's your QB. We don't know exactly how the season's going to play out with him. I never really made a prediction. I think this team on paper could be a 9-8 team, but I don't think that could be the case. I think they could be a 10-17. By the way,
for me though, I still think it's the Lions' division to lose.
Oh yeah, and it really is.
And I would think the Packers would go 9-8. That doesn't give me a change of heart. I feel like the Lions have a better roster.
Green Bay,
paper,
you're starting a new era. You moved on from Aaron Rodgers. It's like it's not really a bad
There's gonna be some growing pains. Let's be honest. There's gonna be some growing pains.
And it happens.
And it's not like they beat the Saints by 30 points. It was only 18 points.
Yeah.
So
and that was all in the fourth quarter.
It was all in the fourth quarter. So they could have easily lost this game, but the Saints just lost it. Let's be honest here. The Saints just lost it.
Yeah, when Derek Carr got hurt.
Yeah, so they just lost it. But anyway, that's going to conclude our show.
100%, because this week has been wow. It's been mind-boggling to say the least.
And also, Bears fans, you okay? Yes, I'm pulling off that meme, like I posted on Facebook.
I don't think they're okay, and they're pretty much just probably numb at this point because I think majority.
Yeah, they're numb. They're like, I don't care at this point.
It's enough of the bullshit, basically.
Yeah, but that's week 3, crazy week of football. Later on tonight, me and Rob will be doing Monday Night Football. One of the Monday Night Football games, that'll be the Eagles and Bucks.
And also, you got another one too with the Rams and Bengals. Which good news for the Bengals.
But Rob, we're not doing that one.
Well, I know that, but there's 2 Monday night games.
Yeah, there's 2 Monday night. Yeah, there's 2 Monday night games. But but we're not gonna do. My phone's about to die too, so I'm trying to speed this up. We've got we got the Bucks and the Eagles. It'll be live on ABC at 7:15, and at 8:15 on ESPN it'll be Bengals and Rams. Will the Bengals bounce back, or will the Rams shock the world? Will the Eagles improve to 3-0, or will the Buccaneers improve
Go to 3-0. So
Imagine
feel
if
like
Baker
the
Mayfield
ABC
has a statement game.
yeah.
What
I
if
feel
Baker
like
Mayfield has a statement game?
Yeah, it's Baker Mayfield. But
Yeah.
I feel like the ABC game will be a better game for you guys to watch than
I
the
think in terms
ESPN
with
one.
the Bucks, what I'm seeing, because right now you had Devin White's been questionable with a groin injury. Same with Vita Vey is questionable. So you got some of your key pieces on that defense.
Yeah, you got
Questionable.
key pieces out. You got key pieces that may not play tonight. But yeah, we'll be covering the Eagles and Bucks. But whoever's covering that the other game on Sports Wave, you can check that out too, most certainly.
I'm pretty sure Dante.
Well, Dante might be doing that one, so check his out too.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we'll be doing Eagles and Bucks later on tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
So
well, yeah,
hope to see you guys there. Like and subscribe if you hold on. Let me finish my outro, brother. Like and subscribe if you liked what you saw. And shout out to Sports PSP for showing up and showing out. You were a quality guest.
Anytime, man.
Shout out to Rob for hijacking the show pretty much halfway through.
You know, it'd be nice to have a little bit debate football talk. Is you know how most of us football fans are, and plus I know you probably guys who've seen our shows in the past like love the people we have on terms of panel wise. So
yeah, you loved our guests last year, like, and also we're trying to bring the quality guests to this year. We're trying to we're gonna expand past Sports Wave because sometimes most of that group isn't available, so we'll expand more on that. So we'll have outside creators out too. So we will have that. Next week I'll definitely have another episode. I won't skimp out on you guys like I did week 2. I won't do that to you guys again. So week 4 I will be back for the Pigskin recap. And yeah, thank you guys for showing up, showing out, and we will see you later on the night. Peace.
I'll see you guys.
Peace.